Have you ever noticed that high IQ people tend to solve problems that don't really exist? Now, in my videos, I've spoken about the flaws of low IQ people, middle IQ people, so I think it's only fair to give a bit of shtick to high IQ people and the weird foibles and personality flaws that they have. And I think a bit of an issue that high IQ people have is that, for better or worse, they are really obsessed with abstract concepts. And sometimes it gets so obsessive that they kind of just worry about things that just have no relevance to anything. And a great demonstration of this is the airless basketball that costs $2,500. So this is a basketball that was engineered by Wilson. And the engineering of this is very interesting, very smart. It's a basketball that functions similar. It's got a similar bounce velocity, and it operates like a actual basketball. But what problem is this solving? Like, what's wrong with a basketball? I know I'm supposed to be mind blown, whoa, it doesn't have air and there's no air pressure and it can bounce like that. But is that solving anything? Does anyone play basketball and they're like, oh, I'd love playing basketball. I just hate touching a basketball. That's the worst part about it. If only I could play basketball without a basketball. Has anyone ever said that? Never. And also, not only is it just, a way more expensive version of a regular basketball, but it's actually worse because it's a porous surface. You can imagine dust and little bits of debris and pebbles might get stuck in the ball, which is going to change the weight of the ball, which kind of fucks up the physics of the basketball. It's not just that it's a way more expensive replacement. It's over-engineered, and now it's worse. Now it's fucking worse. Now their product is worse. It doesn't really produce the sound that you would assume a basketball makes.
I'm actually a little scared. Interesting. That's actually crazy. The sound is very epic. Way more silent.
And I know that sounds kind of fucking stupid, but what's wrong with that sound? In fact, I kind of like that sound. I think any basketball player kind of enjoys the audio feedback of dribbling a ball. What sense does it make to get rid of that? There's no point. It's just over-engineering something. It's solving a problem that never existed in the first place. Another example of high IQ people solving problems that don't exist and just having, way too much of a, obsession with abstract concepts is a guy called William Sidis. Now, William Sidis is kind of he's kind of like a totem for a high IQ underachiever. This guy had an IQ estimated at over 200, and the upper bound is 250. Now, if you know anything about how the IQ bell curve is distributed, this is off the fucking scale. I can't, there's no way to describe how fucking smart this man is. He's just off the fucking scale. The smartest guy doesn't even come close to this guy. This guy is just insane. There's some debate as to whether or not he really got to a 250 or if you can even measure beyond 200. But in any case, I'm going to give you one factoid about this guy, and I think you'll kind of conclude that, yeah, this guy is pretty fucking smart. When he was 3, he taught himself Latin. Yeah, he taught himself Latin. 3. Now, 3 years old is a baby. Is a baby. Imagine being this guy's father, and you walk into his room, and you see this baby, and it's your son, and he goes, "Oh, hello, father. I'm just finishing up on my fluency on Latin. How are you doing today?" It's just off the fucking scale. The thing is, he just kind of had an unremarkable life. He didn't really achieve much despite being so insanely gifted. In fact, he was kind of like a frustrated soul. He was quite isolated and didn't really, and kind of just had a bit of a bothersome life. But one thing that is interesting about him is he invented his own language. Why? Well, so he's the only person on the planet that knows this language. Who cares? Again, I'm impressed. I think obviously this guy is just he completely IQ mogs me and everyone watching this video into oblivion. But so what? Okay, you made a language. Nobody uses it. It's got no utility. So now, of course, this guy is a very extreme example, but he's totemic of a underachiever, of someone that is intellectually gifted for a reason. The guy was very preoccupied with abstract ideas and concepts, but nothing really got accomplished from it, right? Another example of high IQ people solving problems that never really existed is a guy called Ronald Graham. Now, Ronald Graham came up with something called Graham's number. Now, I'm going to really speed run the explanation of this, but basically, it's a number it creates recurring power towers of 3. It's a faster growth pattern than even an exponential chart. So it's 3 to the power of 3 to the power of 3 to the power of 3. If you were to write this number out, it would extend past the solar system. In fact, the digits in this number would be so big that you couldn't even write it if you had a piece of paper extending across the observable universe. So you may be wondering, what's the point of this? What is this guy getting at? What's Graham's number used for? It's supposed to be an upper bound of how many lines of color you can draw to where you can't draw all of the same lines of the same color in a graph in a hypercube, and Graham's number is the amount of dimensions you would need to where you couldn't do this arbitrary rule set anymore. So in Graham's number dimensions, there'd be a breakdown in the pattern of hypercubes. It's who fucking cares? What has this got to do with anything? Don't get me wrong, this guy is really fucking smart, and I like mathematical curiosities, but when does there's no utility here. It's just mental masturbation. Maybe I'm just too much of a brainlet to connect the dots between why coloring in hypercubes and the Graham's number dimension is important to the 3D world. Maybe I'm just too much of a brainlet to make that connection, but there's no obvious utility to any of this, right? And I think this is a very common, I guess, foible of people that have a high IQ, where they just get so lost in the source with abstractions that they kind of need someone that's a bit closer to the middle of the IQ bell curve to just ask, what's the point of this? Mr. Graham, can you do something useful in the 3rd dimension? That would be kind of helpful, right? I know I sound like a fucking idiot, but this is I think there's some validity to this, right? With all this being said, I like high IQ people. I really get along with them, and I really do, enjoy their company. But real intellectuals I've met, they can just get way too fucking lost in the source. It's not a problem that low IQ people have for sure, and it's not a problem that middle IQ people, but yeah, this is just something I've noticed from interacting with people that are obviously intellectually gifted.